Hello everybody, so Arithmetic here and welcome to another CSEC past paper practice video. And in this video, we will be looking at some consumer arithmetic, another set of questions. So let's get straight into it. So this question says, Harish works at a call center for 35 hours each week. He is paid an hourly rate of $11.20. Calculate the amount of money Harish received in a 4-week month. So we see every week Harish works for 35 hours and he's paid every hour $11.20. So for 1 week, we see he earns, so it's 11.20 multiplied by 35. So for 4 weeks, he will earn 392 multiplied by obviously 4. And this will give us $1,568. So this is the amount of money he's paid in a 4-week month. So therefore, you can see Harish is paid $1,568 in a 4-week month. So the next question says, in a certain week, Harish works 8 hours overtime. Overtime hours are paid at a time and a half times the usual rate of $11.20 per hour. So find the total amount of money Harish is paid for that week. So you want the total amount of money that he's paid. So in a certain weeks, he works 8 hours overtime. And we know for 1 week, he is paid $392. So we already calculated that here. So we can say 1 week, he's paid $392. So we don't need to calculate this again. So, but in this week, he earns 8 hours overtime money. So we can say overtime. So now we can calculate the overtime. First of all, we need to find the overtime rate. So the overtime rate is equal to, so he's paid 1.5 times 11.20. So we can say instead of 1.5, we can say 1.5 multiplied by 11.20. So this will give us 1.5 multiplied by 11.20. This will give us $16.80. So this is the amount of money he is paid per hour in overtime. So we saw that he worked 8 hours. So this will be 16.80 multiplied by, he worked 8 hours multiplied by 8. So this will give us $134.40. So this is the amount of money that he works overtime. So his total amount would be, so we see he is paid $392 for the week, plus his overtime money, which is $134.40. Hence this will give us $526. And 40 cents, or $526.40, and that is the amount of money he is paid for this week, including the overtime. So let's move on to the next question. The next question says, the cost for parking at the car park is shown in the table below. So we have the length of visit and we have the cost. So under 30 minutes is free. More than 30 minutes and up to 2 hours is 2.25. More than 2 hours up to 4 hours is 5.50. More than 4 hours up to 8 hours is $9.25. And more than 8 hours and up to 24 hours is $15. And 1 week ticket is $40. So Michaela leaves the car park at 18:30 hours and pays $9.25. Determine the earliest time she could have arrived at the car park. So Michaela paid $9.25. So that means she could have spent at least 4 hours or at most 8 hours. So the earliest she could have arrived, would be the maximum 8 hours earlier than the time. Because they want the earliest. So the earliest would be 8 hours early, because 8 hours is the maximum time she could have spent at the park to pay this amount of money. So the earliest would be, so we can simply be, this can be 18:30 hours subtract 8 hours. So we can say 18. So we can either do this mentally, or we can think about it. Remember, 8.5 hours. So if we subtract 8 hours from 18 hours, we'll end up with 10:30 hours. So we can say, therefore, the earliest she could have arrived was 10:30 hours. So that's the earliest time she could have arrived. As easy as that. That's minus 8 hours from the time that she arrived. So let's move on to the last question. This one says, Danaraj bought a weekly ticket for $40. That week, he visited the park 5 different times. The length of time he parked on each occasion is given below. So 25 minutes first of all, 7.5 hours, 11 hours, 8 3/4 hours, 8 hours. Show that Danaraj saved $8.50 by buying the weekly ticket. So we need to go back and forth with the table to find the amount of money for each one of these times. So first of all, 25 minutes, let's see how much that will cost. So under 30 minutes is free, so this will be $0. And then 7.5 hours, we see 7.5 hours would be here. So it's $15 here. So $15, I write it at the top. So let me write it in a different color so that it can be a bit clearer. So here would be $0 and here would be. So let's go back and forth to see the amount of time, amount of money he has to pay for each one of these times. So the first one is 25 minutes. So we see under 30 minutes, it's free. So this will be $0. I write it in a different color so that we can see. And the next time he spent was 7.5 hours. So we see 7.5 hours would be more than 4 hours and up to 8 hours. So that would be 9.25. This is $9.25. And then 11 hours would be more than 8 hours up to 24 hours, $15. So $15 here. And then 8 3/4 hours would be more than 8 hours up to 24. So $15 again. And then 8 hours would be up to 8 hours, which would be $9.25. So $9.25. So to find the amount of money he would have paid had he paid individually instead of buying a ticket, it would be, so money, so we can say cost without ticket will be 0 plus 9.25 plus $15 plus $15 plus 9.25. Hence this will give us $48.50. So this is the amount of money that he would have paid without the ticket. And we saw that the ticket cost $40. So therefore, we saw that the ticket cost $40. So we can say the money saved would be $48.50. Subtract the $40 that he paid for the ticket. And this will give us $8.50. So that is how we show that he saved $8.50 by buying the ticket, the weekly ticket, instead of buying each parking individually. So with that, this has brought me to the end of this video, and I'll see you in the next video. But remember to keep practicing the past papers. Take care.